Captain Toad Treasure Tracker has some really unsettling occurrences for players who look beyond the norm. Ghosts, ghouls, and everything in between. The world of Mario is loaded with lots of spooky things. I've always found myself drawn to these eerie environments since they have a sort of strange, but not really scary vibe to them. But the Mario series is also known for its slew of strange occurrences that happen outside of traditional, normal gameplay. We're no strangers to them either on this channel. From creepy giant aliens watching us from above, to ghosts in the forest watching our movements. We've kind of seen it all. So I suppose it comes to no one's surprise that Captain Toad Treasure Tracker also has its own collection of spooky findings. However, they may be a bit harder to find than most. I hope you're ready for another trek into the Darklands, because this is the tale of Captain Toad's sinister spirits, and a Nintendo cover-up I haven't heard anyone talk about online yet, so I hope you enjoy. First, we need to set the stage for this whole mystery. The things I'll be talking about in this video aren't exactly new to the internet from a discovery stance, but it's the mysterious circumstances around them that are. Back before I even had played through Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, creators like the Easter Egg Hunter, Nico BBQ, and Mancolor, among others, had documented various spooky findings in the game. But there's always more to a mystery. If you've ever visited a haunted place in real life, you know it's not a one-and-done ordeal. It's one person's experience that draws out their curiosity in others, and then that person possibly goes to check it out to see if they can experience it themselves, but to also add more clarity to the strange occurrence. And lately, I've been on a ghostly trek. I've covered creepy things like the Hell Valley Sky Trees in the past, to the World 44 Ghost of Super Mario 3D Land, to even the monstrosity L in Luigi's Mansion, assuming I released that video already. If I didn't, it's coming soon. So naturally, I was going to get my hands on the ghosts from this game too. One of the things I can do is add a bit more clarity to mysteries simply because I have a different toolset than most. That lets us get up close and personal to these ghosts and ghouls, and to possibly eject them from the game itself. But I digress. We have a few stops to make, so let's get started. First up, we have Bizarre Doors of Boo Mansion, which is World 1-16 in the game. I'll keep these brief so we can get into the bulk of the mystery, but the ghostly encounter here actually happens on the rear side of the mansion. You wander out back, wait for a set period of time, and then suddenly, there's some creepy handprints that appear all over the wall. It's interesting though, because whatever made these handprints is pretty tall compared to Toad. Beyond that, it has to be a human in the Mario world. Toad's hands are much too small, and lots of other characters like Yoshi don't have enough fingers. The bone structure is very human, which is very eerie. Powering forward on our ghostly quest, next up we have Sinister Street Signs, stage 4 of the second chapter. If you head to the bottom of the level and wait by the gated window, eventually you'll see a spooky figure emerge. A stretched spirit snakes its way out the gate and upwards into the sky. We can sit here, and this will occur over and over again. It's interesting because this is a quick stage, so the developer who implemented this wanted someone to linger in this haunted environment. Same goes for all these examples really. Which takes us to our final contender, Fright Train Flight, the 17th stage of Chapter 3. For this experience, you need to make your way to the end of the train near the star and just wait. And after a good while, the Omega Spirit appears, cackling beneath the railroad track as your sky train heads out further into the void. Now, this spirit is absolutely enormous. It's like the Hell Valley Sky Trees and the World 44 Ghost did the fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z and became this horror. It has the scale of a Hell Valley Sky Tree, but the composure of a traditional ghost, similar to the spirit from Super Mario 3D Land. And all of this is good fun. We have 3 spooky encounters that plenty of people have talked about online, but there's one missing detail that hasn't been documented. And I stumbled upon this just like any good ghost hunter would. I set up a trap and I waited with my camera. So what exactly is the problem? Well, to be honest, what I've told you so far is just what is known. It wasn't from my own experience. Obviously, I got footage after the matter for this video, but my personal experience was a lot different. So let's go back to the giant ghost at the end of Fright Train Flight. The well-accepted theory for getting these ghosts to appear is simply to let the game run for about 5 minutes after you first start the level. Once 5 minutes have passed, the game will spawn the ghosts, whether it be handprints, the fleeing spirits, or the cackling giant. And you can execute this easily just by booting up your game and going to any of these locations and just waiting. Well, or so I thought, because that didn't work for me. I sat at the front of the train for around 15 minutes and nothing happened. And then I tried it again. And again. Nothing each time. So maybe I was doing something wrong in the level? Should I have disconnected each train section or left them all intact? Nothing solved the issue. Confused, I went back to an earlier level to see if I could trigger the other ghosts I was talking about. So I sat at Sinister Street Signs and waited. And just before I was about to throw in the towel, the ghosts appeared. Okay, so this one worked. How about the first? I sat outside the haunted mansion with my camera ready, but the handprints never showed up. I know they exist because others have documented them. So why was my experience different? And then it hit me. Nintendo removed the ghosts. I wasn't thinking about it at first, but I was playing on the 3DS version of the game, the quote-unquote advanced version. 4 years had passed since the Wii U version had debuted, and the 3DS and Switch versions were spruced up, so to speak. At first I thought it was that perhaps the trigger mechanics for spawning the ghosts were severed in the ports, but it wouldn't make sense since the ghost still spawns in Sinister Street Signs. This ghost isn't out of the ordinary, because it looks just like the spirit that comes out of a boo when it's defeated. But the others were a lot more eerie and probably disturbing. If we monitor the game and have it export any new textures that'll load into the game's memory while it's running, we can see that this is what the ghost looks like. It's just super stretched out in the game's engine, but no loading takes place for both the hands and the large laughing spirit. They never get loaded into the game's memory, even in a hidden state. So everyone who covered these ghosts in the past on YouTube probably got the attention of Nintendo, who may have not even known these existed. Developers like to hide silly things in games all the time, and most of the time they don't really get approval per se. It's just an artist's touch on something they created. Which is why it baffles me that these two instances were removed from the re-release of the game. They were such cool little secrets. For one last ditch effort, I decided to look at all the textures and models in the game specific to each map we had discussed. Locating these maps is a bit tedious because oftentimes they have weird names. So Sinister Street Signs is actually called the Believe Signboard in the game files. Things are often named literally, and in this map you need to believe the signboards despite the path being invisible, so it makes sense. I was hoping that by checking out these 3 levels out in the game, the other 2 being Move Door Haunted House and Fright Train, that I'd be able to see some instance of these spirits within. But their texture repositories contained no ghostly figures, regardless if I looked at the map files, objects, or animations. Moving on, I decided to comb through all the effects of the game. Dust, smoke, fog, basically all the little things that enhance what is going on. But again, nothing. No spirits or ghostly handprints were found after a few hours of searching. It's possible they could be a combination of textures that are unrecognizable when apart, but I'm not sure. After all, the ghost we did find through our active dump was only 8 by 32 pixels, and it was only half the ghost. Perhaps I overlooked it. But I did find something labeled as a UFO though, and to my knowledge, I don't think I've heard of a UFO within Captain Toad. The particle is an emitter for the UFO, but no UFO graphic was present. But alas, we've reached a dead end. For some reason, these spirits were removed from the 3DS version of the game, and I don't know why. But if you have the Switch version, let me know if you can see them. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into these ghostly figures and learned something new. Cheers for now.